Hi, this is Dee Sanchez, Scrappy Gamer DDS, and this is session 1 of the Well Wishes and Wine card making class series. Session 1 was about basic layers and also backgrounds, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed the class, and now you have this video tutorial to help reinforce and hopefully continue to inspire you to make different cards and really create on your own, not having to rely on designer series paper or pattern paper for your cards. So grab your cheat sheet, grab your supplies, and if you want to make another set of cards, we're going to do so right now. Thank you. I just grabbed a few pieces of paper. I have regular cardstock, which I'm using Recollections. This is 65-pound weight. You can hear it has some of that give. It's thicker than copy paper. And then I also have the 110, much thicker. So the 110 is great for bases. So what that means is the actual card itself, the card that opens and closes. Everything else that goes on top, the layers and all of that, can be from the 65 cardstock. So these are not cards. So these are regular 8.5 by 11 size sheets of paper, and I'm going to show you two ways in which to cut cardstock in order for you to get the desired type of opening. So you'll see what I mean in a second. Let's take the first piece. Okay, the first piece is 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to put the long piece on my trimmer. So I have a trimmer which has an arm, and there's a straight edge up here, and I have the numbers right there of the measurements that I need to look at. And this one has two what looks like blades. The first one is a trimming blade, cuts the paper, and this one is a scoring blade. I'm using this because it'll just be convenient to have both things readily available. You need to cut the paper, but then you also need to score. Stampin' Up! Sells one, very nice, much bigger surface area here. I've already had this Recollections one, so I'm just sticking with what I have in my stash. You can also use a regular paper trimmer and then get yourself a Martha Stewart or some other Score Pal or Score Buddy, which Stampin' Up! Sells a score pad as well. But again, that's what your budget would allow. So the paper is 11 inches. So we can see that. Let me bring this down a little bit. It's going into the arm over here. So we want to see that it's 11 inches, and so we want halfway through, so that would give us 5.5. So we're going to line up the top of the paper. Remember, we put it in the long way, the 11-inch side, and we're going to just cut. A rule of thumb is to cut towards the paper. Use this stopper up here, this little ridge right here, to hold your paper from shifting. Hold it down with one hand, and then push against the paper to make your cut. So now I've made two pieces exactly the same, 8.5 by 5.5. So now we're going to get two cards out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it again to the long way. So now this is the 8.5 side. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in, and the half of 8.5 is 4.25. So we're going to look for our 4.25 mark, and in this time we're not going to cut, we are going to score. And what we're doing is we're scoring at 4.25. Just a couple times, a little bit of pressure. I don't know if you can see the score lines, right? It dips down. So the thing is that you may think you want to fold it this way because you have the score line here, but actually the correct way to fold it is to fold it away from, and that gives you a nice crisp edge and no cracking. You'll notice that I might have been a slight bit off, and so if you are off at any point like this, the rule of thumb is don't throw this away. The longer piece, just treat that as the front of the card. So before you start adding embellishments, we'll be checking that. So I scored that one. I'm going to go and I'm going to score the second piece, and I'm going to again go to 4.25. Going to line that up. And again, I'm going to come from the bottom. I'm going to score a couple times, press in, and then again, score line. I'm going to fold away from the paper, or fold away from me. And again, I'm a little bit off, but that's just fine. So we have two cards here. Now what I was talking about was opening, is that if we hold the card this way, and we want to decorate it, we have what's called landscape, or wide. And so the card would open like this, okay? So that's one position of a card that you could have. The same paper that we just said can open like this. If we lay it out this way, all we need to do is turn it 90 degrees and we can lay it tall or portrait, and we have another card which opens up like that. So depending upon what you want to do or the position of your sentiment, you're going to use the card orientation that you prefer. Now, there are two other styles you could do. So I'm going to take another sheet of cardstock, the heavy 110 pound. And this case, I'm going to put it up. Here was what I did here before, was put the 11 side up. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the 8.5 side up, which means that I want to cut at excuse me, 4 1/4. So we're going to line that up and get my scoring tool out the way and make sure that it's tied up against the top, and I'm going to cut it. Okay, so now I have two pieces again that are identical, and what I want to do is I want to turn it this way. Again, long side towards the top of the cutter. And we're going to turn it this way, and we're going to now put it back in the cutter. And again, this is 11, so we're going to do the 5.5. So I'm going to line this edge up with 5.5, and I'm going to score it. So I'm going to bring the score over here, so I'm pushing against the paper. Again, score a couple times. Okay, I did that wrong. Let's go over here, score it, there we go. And again, I'm going to push it away from the paper. Okay, and I don't know, something's going on, but I'm a little off, so that means that this will be the front of my card. Okay, I'm also going to do one more time to the other side. The other piece, 5.5. Score it up and down, and we're going to fold it away from ourselves again. So now you have a top fold card. Okay, and again, when we go to lay the layers down, the little one that's longer should be the front. But you have a top fold card, and so this will open this way. Okay, so you can add a little variety to how your cards open. And if you really want to be different, you can actually do it where you open up that way. So this same base that goes top and bottom up tall can also go portrait size and open sideways. So this is a little bit of a different look, and you now have an option. So you have 4 different options for 4 different cards to make in terms of how they're positioned with their openings. Okay, so I hope that that was understandable. And I'm going to move the trimmer out because we're going to go on to the next phase of this class. So what I wanted to introduce to you guys first was to talk about just cards in general. We have lovely paper that we all purchase and we love, and it just is so awesome. And we can use cards and we can do that, but cards that we do are handmade, and we want to have that personal touch to them. So what I'm going to show you today is why not build your own designer paper or background paper. So I'm taking out a few blocks that I'm going to need for my stamp sets. Okay, I'm going to need one of these, and right now I believe this guy here. So these are Stampin' Up! Blocks. They're really nice, clear, very thick with a little ridge, good for holding. You can use any stamp block that you like. I just am a demonstrator, so I prefer to use these blocks. I really like the way that they feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own background. So I'm pulling out 2 stamp sets. I'm using the Flower Shop set, and I'm using the Perpetual Birthday Calendar. Now, what does one have to do with the other? You'll see there are elements from your stamp sets that you'll see, and you're like, oh, that's really cute. And then you'll just use them, you know, and mix them up. You don't have to necessarily use the same stamp set and only that stamp set. So the one I've pulled out from here is this one, which is this one right here, which is a little faded, a little bit of solid, so it has a little bit of texture. And I've also pulled out this one and mounted it to the blocks. So here's our second stamp. And then what I'm grabbing from here is these little leaves just in case I need them, and I've mounted them to another block here. Okay, so we're gonna go right to this. I'm deciding to use the In Colors from Stampin' Up! I'm going to use the Tip Top Taupe. We're going to use that at one point. And we're going to use the Cucumber Crush, which is a nice green. The other thing we're going to use is a Memento Luxe black ink. Okay? And so now we're going to be layering these. And so having that there can give you sort of an idea of the orientation, but in reality, to make this really great, you should kind of turn the stamp as you go. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so any stamp sets that you have, you can use to make a background. And that's what today's class is supposed to be about. Just being able to be creative and not being worried and just having fun. And seeing what you can make and then making something even more pretty and beautiful from that. So I'm just going to ink this up and I'm just going to stamp. And we wanted the back paper because I'm going to stamp off the edges. So we're just going to see that it's going to be a nice little mottled effect. And so we're going to go through the paper. And as you go through the paper, you're going to turn your stamps, your flowers. You don't necessarily want to keep them in the same direction, and you can definitely go off the page. Having white space is sometimes good, and if it looks too wide, you'll see how we'll remedy that in a minute. And then I feel like I'm done. Okay? So, you want to clean off your stamps in between. Stamping a dye base, so it won't hurt them too much to sit on there. You can wash them off later. But just because it's a good habit to have, spray it up, put it on your stamping scrub. Okay, that's one of these. One side is wet, the other side is dry. Just rub it real quick and the stamp is clean. So I'm going to leave it on there for now. Just going to get it out the way. And I'm going to go to the next one. So we can close this up now. Okay. So what we're actually doing is creating what you might hear or might describe to somebody this process is called a one-sheet wonder. And you'll see in a minute why that is. So I'm going to use the black Memento ink with this outline version, okay? And I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to stamp one up here so you can see. It's kind of on the light side. Let me see, I have another Craft Smart one. Let's see if this is a little better. I want a nice dark ink. Okay. It's a little better, not by much. So I think I'll stay with the Memento. Now, the symmetry of the flower. There's certain petals that have a definite shape. If you can identify that definite wonky petal, then you can turn this in order to help you line up your petals. So that could take a bit of time, but that's going to make it all the more interesting. If it does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. This is a handmade card. So I'm almost on there. Let me show you a little closer. See how I stamped it? I'm pretty close because I identified one of those petals. So again, I'm going to go over here and here. I'm a little off. But if we fold the page up with this, it's going to look awesome. So just go around the page as slowly as you need to in order to cover all of your flowers. Now you'll see that all of the stamps are done. They're not perfect, and it still has a very nice effect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the empty spaces between. Okay? You can leave them if you want, but I was thinking that to have a nice contrast, you want something that is a little petite. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use the Tip Top Taupe, which is a brownish color, and the leaves, and we're going to fill in. So let me just show you what the leaves look like. I'll put it right here. That's what the leaves look like. So you want to fill up the ink, stamp off. You get different tones. The stickiness is because this is full of polymer, where those are rubber stamps. Okay, so now I'm just gonna ink this up, and I'm gonna go between the flowers. And with something like this, you do want to rotate so that you're giving it some movement and it doesn't look so repetitious on purpose. You also want to go off the page and turn the stamp as you can to fit within the little areas of your design. Okay, so that's it. I'm done. And this is the background that I have created. It's vibrant and neutral at the same time. It does seem a bit busy and you're like, oh, but it is very conducive to any kind of sentiment. This could totally go happy birthday, how are you, thank you, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now, is to get to making some cards. So again, I'm just cleaning it off. It's nice and clean. And put it off to the side. Okay, and that's going to be the inking for now. We are going to use some ink later to finish up the cards with our sentiments. So let me turn this over, and you can see our finished background. Okay, so now here's the next phase of what we're going to do, which is to cut the paper in such a way that we will have enough panels. So layers, right? This is what we're talking about. Layers of cards. What make the card stand out is the layering, and whether you have it strictly flat to the card base or whether you have it popped up. And I'm going to show you a couple of those things here today. So I'm going to need my trimmer back into the picture here, and we're also going to need a background layer. So playing off of the Tip Top Taupe, knowing that I was going to do that, I'm going to use brown. Okay? And the brown, you can see the minute I do that, that's what we're talking about, a layer. So here we got something kind of busy, all over the place, whatever. The minute I go like this, shift this down, that green, that brown, it pops. So we need to cut the paper so that that can happen. So my thing as well is to try to maximize. If you're going to make one card, you might as well make two. If you can make more than two and do it assembly line, that's even better. So here we go. We're going to go through the cuts, and I'm going to go through them as slowly as I can in the video. But remember that you will have your cheat sheet with the measurements on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this at 3 3/4. 3 3/4. The reason is, quickly, the width of the card cut this way is 4 1/2. No, I'm sorry, it's 4 1/4. And so what we want to do is we want to cut this smaller than that. But this is 4 1/4, and I'm doing 3 3/4. That's a whole 1/2 inch. Well, because in between that, we need that little border of edging in order to really make this card pop. So we're going to cut the inside layer first, and so I'm going to give you those measurements. So we'll do that again. We're going to cut it at 3 3/4. We're going to cut up. Remember, push it up, push against. We're going to make one strip. Bring blade down. Again, measure to 3 3/4. We're going to push it up, and then cut, and we make 2 strips. So these 2 strips are exactly 3 3/4 wide by 11. And then you have this extra sheet right here. Do not toss this. This has potential. So we're going to talk about that as well. So we're just going to put this off to the side. Okay? Now, we're going to take these long strips, and we're going to do the first set of cards. So we're going to do a full card. I want to do a full card. I might look to put an area that kind of is on the emptier side. So I will look at my 2, and I think that this guy's a little bit more empty. So I'm going to save him. And I'm going to turn this so that the 11 is across. And we're going to do the same thing, which is we're going to cut the layer that's smallest. So again, this was 4 1/4. This was 5 1/2. So I'm going to cut this at 5. So again, I have that 1/2 inch so that I can have that brown layer. So we're going to cut it at 5 tall. So I'm going to go to 5. And we're going to cut that at 5. Push that up, push it again. So now, this is 1 card. Right now we have the layer for 1 card. What we're going to do here is we're going to cut these down to identical lengths. We're going to cut them at 2 1/2. So I'm going to know that I'm going to have some waste. This can be my waste. I think I want to keep as many flowers, so I'm going to turn this. So look at the piece of paper before you cut it. So 2 1/2. Again, 2 1/2. And I'm going to cut that. That's going to be 2 1/2. And then I'm going to cut again at 2 1/2. So if I place it here, I'm going to lose this flower and this all down here. If I rotate it, I keep that little bit of flower, and I'm going to lose practically nothing. So I think I'm going to turn it. So please do turn your papers. I'm going to show you this again. I plan to cut it there. Right now, I'm only going to lose a lot of white space, right? Before, if I had planned to cut it at 2 1/2, I would be losing this green bits. I would lose a little bit more of the design. So before you cut, take a look and try to figure out what area is going to be considered trash and cut it accordingly. So here I'm at like 2 1/2. Okay. Now I did this strategically, right? I want this to be my panel, but this is still totally usable. So we're going to put that over there. So now I have technically 3 cards right here, right now. We got 3 cards. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to get ourselves at least 4 more cards. So this is 3 3/4. So what I want to do is I want to cut it at 1 7/8. 1 7/8 will give me right down the middle. So 1 7/8. I'm going to look for 1 7/8. Line it up with my trimmer. Bring my blade down here. And I'm going to cut. Gotta make sure it's straight. Use the paper lines and everything to make sure you're straight. And I'm going to cut straight up. So now I have 2 identical pieces. And what I want to do is I'm going to cut them together to save a little bit of time. But we're going to take them and we're going to cut them both at the 5 inch mark. So we're going to go to 5 inches. And again, bring the paper trimmer down. Boom, 1. And then we're going to look at them again. Let's see. I think I'm going to keep this side so I have more green, and I'm going to cut this off over here. If I don't like this one too much, I'm going to turn this around here. So I know this is going to get cut off. So I'm going to do this again at 5. 5. I'm going to bring this down, make sure it's pushed up, and this is 5, and cut it. Again, do not throw any of these bits off yet. Don't throw them out. But now you have 4 identical sized pieces, and this is 4 more cards. So with this 1 sheet of paper, you potentially have 1, 2, 3, 7 cards. Okay. What we're going to do is cut the background now. Okay. The background has to be slightly larger. So let me show you what I mean. This is the size 3 3/4 of the layer that we just cut right here, right? Now, if I cut it the same amount, I'm not going to have any overhang. I want a slight overhang, so I'm going to go not at 3 3/4, but I'm going to go at 4 inches. So I'm going to line it up to 4 inches, do my thing again, push it up, and cut into the paper. And then we're going to do this one first, okay? Now, this one is 4 inches. we're going to turn this one around because now I want to make the other part of this, which is, this was 5, so I want 5 1/4. So we're going to do 5 1/4 on this one. 5 1/4. Okay, so let's show you that we have a nice layer going on right here. Look at that. How perfect is that? Right? So a nice little layer. We can easily stamp a sentiment on top, no problem. I'll show you some ways we can add a sentiment as well to this, okay? So that's one card. Now, the other two cards fit perfectly top to bottom because remember this is 3 3/4 across and this is 4. So this was 2 1/2. So we need to have 2 3/4. So we're going to cut it at 2 3/4. 2 3/4. We'll line that up there. And then we're going to do it again. 2 3/4. And we have this little tiny sliver. That might have been a little crooked. Let me double check. 2 3/4. Yeah, it's a little crooked. 2 3/4. And there we go. So we have this little tiny sliver. Honestly, this I wouldn't keep. I just toss that to the side. But if we did it all good, we have another layer right here for one of these. That's the second card. And the other little short one, we have another layer right here. So that's another card right there. So we have 3 cards ready to go. Now, this one was 1 7/8 wide. So let's do a little bit of math. 2 1/8. Okay. And then we're going to push in and do another 2 1/8. 2 1/8. Okay. There we go. Another little sliver we won't use. Now remember that we had 4 pieces. They were both, all of them were 5 inches, so we need to go to 5 1/4. So again, these two match. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, which is to double up and save some time. And if you're not comfortable with that because you feel it's going to throw you off, then do them each individually. So we're going to go to 5 1/4. So those are 5 1/4. Make sure everything's pushed up, looks even. Cut. And then slide this guy over and do another 5 1/4. And we have these 2 little pieces and we are done. We have all the backgrounds. So remember, they were all the same. So look, perfect. Fits right in there nicely. So we have our layers. So now we have 7 cards, potentially. Well, 7 cards, not potentially, 7 cards. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to assemble the layers. So let's do that. Okay. Because once we assemble the layers, we'll be able to affix them to the card bases, and then we can have the fun of looking for what sentiments we can put on these different cards. So all you're going to need is some kind of adhesive. I'm going to use a simple tape runner today, and I'm just going to match up the panels that I've stamped with the backgrounds. Okay, so what I do, I'm going to see if I can do this where you can kind of get a sense, is I have one that's stuck to my finger and I try to put one here. And I try to kind of have my finger, my thumb, blocking from putting it down. And I want to look, and I want to use that thumb to help me out. And I want to look at all my edges and until they look pretty even, right? So they're all pretty even. See, now, I didn't press anything down, so I can easily just go back in. Oh well, so then show me wrong, right? Well, we just peel it off. But it's a layer, so it doesn't really matter. And also, remember, this can be turned over if anything like that happens. So now we gotta do this one good. So we layer it up. Don't release our finger until we feel like it's in the center where we want it. Then we can release this finger and then pat it down. And our panel is perfectly layered. Okay? If it has a little bit of edge to it, like over here on this side, it may look a little big right here, maybe because it's next to a lot of white. But you know what? You tell them, darling, it was made with love, and all is forgiven, because you know they are handmade. So there are going to be slight imperfections, but that's the beauty of handmade. So again, let's just put all the panels on all of the bases. Alright, so we now have 4 of these, 1 full one, and 2 halves going on right here, okay? And so I have, right now, 7 cards. So the idea is we're going to figure out what orientation we want the cards to be. So I'm going to start off with our regular standard card this way, and I'm going to put this guy here. I want him to open up this way. Okay? And so all I want to do is to take the adhesive and do the same thing that I was doing with the panels. I want to center it onto the front of my card. Okay? And again, look, I'm looking to see that all the edges seem balanced and even. And then I'm going to press it down, and that's it. He is ready to go for a sentiment. So we will be putting a sentiment on this. That's card number 1. Okay? With these 2 cards, what I want to do is I want to take one of the top fold cards that are like this, right? And I want to take one of these and I want to put it just on the bottom, right here. Okay? So this is going to be the option. Okay. And then I'm going to show you something real funny. Okay? Remember to look for the edge in case you had that overhang. And then I'm going to show you something and I'm going to be like, so funny. So funny, clever, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So now this is there. And then, let's say I find a sentiment which fits over here but it's long. Well, I can just turn the card and make it this way. So with this, I technically have potential for a card that's like this or a card that's like that. So until you put the sentiment on, you know, this card is going to be, has options. I could have also put it on the other side, right? And had the sentiment on this side or on the bottom of the card. So let's say the card opened up and I had the sentiment down here. So your placement is all dependent upon. I happen to like the left side and the sentiment on the right. So that's card number 2. What I want to do is I want to use one of these guys right here, and I'm also going to put this on the bottom because I also prefer the bottom when I do my card bases. Okay, so here we go. We got this guy here, and I'm going to put this here, and I have my sentiment available space right here for my sentiment. Or I can turn it and I can also do it opens this way and put my sentiment here. So let me tell you, you have options. So just let's get all these bases on the different cards. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. You've made 7 cards with 2 sheets of paper and 2 sheets of cardstock. 1 white, 1 layer. You also had to use 1, 2, 3, 4 of the heavyweight. That bothers me. So I don't like to waste, you know. So let's see. I want to be consistent. That was 1 sheet. And this was another sheet. And this was another sheet. So we have this extra guy right here. Right? So this is where these guys, these little extra pieces come into play. Now, we don't have backing for them or layers for them, but you can totally use them and decorate this card without a layer, and you can still get a very nice card. So we can go from edge to edge, and we can stagger, we can stack, stagger and stack, and make a cool effect card. Okay, so I'm gonna super duper speed this up because this is really a playing around phase. So once you've gotten some confidence in building some stuff, then you can totally bust out the trimmer, hack up these little extra pieces, play around with placement like I'm doing here, put on some pop dots, give it some dimension just because you don't have that back layer, and come up with something that is interesting and different, and just as beautiful as the ones you've done that were well planned out. Something impromptu like this can be just as awesome. So hopefully you will play around with the 8th card and get something great out of it. After all my fussing, I do have something that I could totally use, and it's very different and very unique, and pop that. So I can get 8 cards out of this and just have that one Superfly one that I save for myself or give to that special person. So let's finish up these cards. I'm gonna grab some sentiments. We're gonna stamp and we'll be done, and maybe we add a little bit of an embellishment to the mix as well. So I grabbed quite a number of stamp sets. I have a thank you. Just wanted to thank you for all that you've done. And another one that says, it's your birthday, let your hair down. I think those are cute. So what I would do is I would take my cards and I would look at the positions of the card and I would say what would work for me. I think that one looks cool there. This one can totally get put right here. Right? And so I would lay my stamps with their pictures on the cards so that I can see how they're making me feel. Okay, so even though I'm speeding this up so that you don't have to sit through me mulling through all my stamps, I felt a little bit of a void. But yeah, whatever stamps you have, whatever sentiments you have, you place them on the card and see how the position works. And then once you've picked them out, you're good to go. Let's start stamping. I need to get my blocks ready and put out I'm going to use black Memento ink for all of my sentiments, and we're going to start. So I have my happy birthday. We'll start with that one. So all I needed to do is lay it down. Now this is super red because I've used it before, and polymer stamps get stained very easily, but that has nothing to do. As long as you check, see, there's nothing coming off. So I'm gonna ink this guy up really well, and I'm gonna just test it and see how I told you it's just perfect. It's just perfect. You know what I'm gonna do too? I think I'm gonna stamp inside here. Make this guy a birthday card. So right in the center, you wanna stamp happy birthday. Press down, hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, lift up. Our first card has a sentiment. Happy birthday to you. That's our funky card to somebody who's coming with a funky birthday. And let's put the happy birthday to you over some of these petals. So I think the lightest area is here, and what's great is I can see if I'm stamping on top of anything. So I think I'm going to try to put it here. I'm going to try to line this up and not be too crooked. Press down. Don't wiggle, don't shake, don't rock. Hold this so the ink could get released off into the paper straight up. Okay? So, happy birthday to you. It's a little faint, but you can easily read it, so I think that's good. It's not a problem. Remember, it's handmade. I'm going to clean this one off of the black, and I'm going to put it away. Okay, so I just sped this up again because I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, just talking about the placement and just picking feel-good sentiments that touch on a variety of different events. Thank you, congratulations, just well wishes in general, and just, you know, the orientation is really up to you. This one shit wonder idea can really produce a lot of wonderful cards and give you a great stash throughout your year. So you just got to go with it. Any stamps that you have that has sentiments would work perfect for this activity. So there we have it. Let me go through real quick and I'm going to show you another little thing, which hopefully we will be doing in class, which is hiding with embellishments. The simplest embellishment that you can possibly put is a stone, a gemstone, or something like this. These are from Michaels, they're Recollections. Stampin' Up! Sells them as well. Sometimes I need something, I have to go there because it's just closer. I'm going to take a little pick, and this didn't get any kind of messiness going, but I'm going to add to it. So this one I pulled out and I went and I got because they're brownish and cream. And what I want to do is I want to take some of the cream ones and we just want to accent the flowers. So I'm just going to go straight to the center. If the center exists on the stamping, because remember we did a one-shot wonder. So if you want to look at other people's ideas about this process and get more inspiration, see how they did it and how they cut it, because the idea of a one-sheet wonder is you're getting many cards out of it, but there's many ways that you can cut these cards. So definitely Google. See, no, it doesn't want to stay. That one lost its glue. Okay, let's go here, one more chance, one more time, and put a little one right there in the center. Okay, so I just put two little accents, and then if I wanted to, which I probably will right now, take one of the dark ones and just put it on top of the eye. What is going on? I'm not liking this. Okay. I'm going to check my other pick. Alright, there is a little bit of a center down here. Okay, there we go. So there we go. This is our first one, Smile. That's one card. We have our second card, which is Congratulations. You could definitely put some bling here. I don't see any real errors here, so I think I'm going to just leave that alone. That's card number 2. With this one, those who bring sunshine into the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves. You can probably take one of these guys, put it in the center of this flower. What would also be good is if you feel like maybe after you've done it, there's a little bit too much white space, you can just put 3 little embellishments in the corner and you can just dress it up. So that's card number 3. Okay. Card number 4. So again, this is the one that did have that little smudge. So I'm going to try to hide it by putting a little gem on top of it. But then I'm going to feel like I need to add a couple more because you do have the rules of 3s. So we'll just put it like that. So we got 3 little gems for this guy. So that's card number 4. Okay. And thank you. So here I have another little smudge. I'm going to put one there. And I'm going to just put one over here on this side to kind of end off. And even though it's higher, I'll put one here. so that I have the rule of threes being followed, and I just dolled it up a little bit. So that's card number 5. Let's see what's going on here. This one I think looks okay. You can add some bling here, so this is card number 6. And on this one, if you feel it's lost, there's other strategies we can talk about in other classes, but I think it looks fine. I mean, you can see it. I might add some blings throughout this card here just to spice it up. Let's add a couple of the pearls and some of the white space. And so I know that I mentioned the rule of threes, but it also goes to like 5, so it's just odd. Just make sure you put odd number of pearls. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 2 more. Let's balance it over here, 6. And balance it up here, 7. So we just have a sprinkle of beads, and it adds a little texture to our birthday card. So that's card number 7. And then we have this one here, which is interesting. I could put some beads in every one of these white spaces, and I think that I will put beads in this white space here, or little embellishments right there. Oh, I like how that looks, and since I have some more over here, I'm going to put 3 more over here just because, instead of 3. Okay, I'll look again, and I feel like maybe down here. So you add as you need. Nothing is off limits, and I hope that this class, you enjoyed it, and I hope that this tutorial is very similar to the class. I mean, I don't know, because, you know, I'm doing this by myself. But I feel like this is a good basis. Let me put 3 over here. I'm going to keep adding just because my eye is telling me that it needs a little something. And that's what you should do. You should help your eye. Let your eye dictate what needs to be done. So look, we had that white space, and now I have those little dots, and it just feels dressed up, and it feels complete. And so we have made our 8 cards for the evening. Okay, so these are some screenshots of the 8 cards heads on, because I know the angle of the video was a little bit off, so I just wanted to get you a really good view of the cards. I hope you enjoyed the class and that you learned a little bit of something, and that you'll join us next time. So this is Didi Sanchez just saying that crafting is not a spectator sport. We need to get our hands dirty. And please subscribe to the Scrappy Gamer DDS YouTube channel. I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.